Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm amazed why the right part of the hall is containing more people than the left side. It's maybe to do with the political climate in the Netherlands. I prepared a speech for you. Because I have been thinking today about what kind of story I would like to tell you. And the speech that I got was a wonderful one, but I think this occasion is more suitable to tell you something and not to hold an official speech. And I want to go back with you to 2004. I was, at that time, civil servant for the city of Amsterdam. In the position, I was holding the position of Director for Social and Economic Affairs at City Hall, and I was traveling to Marrakesh with 4 of my colleagues because I promised them to show them a part of the country where I was born. And you maybe know that I migrated to the Netherlands when I was 16, and that happens in October 17th, 1976. So we went back, and after a day, I received a telephone call from the chairman of the Labour Party from Amsterdam, saying that I have to come back as soon as possible to Amsterdam because the party was talking about having a new leader after the resignation of, at that time, acting political leader of the Labour Party, Rob Oudkerk, and I was nominated to be the new leader. I said, what? I'm a civil servant. You are asking me to come back to take another position, a political position, to be a leader? I am a civil servant. So the holiday was really gone, and because I think an hour later also, the Volkskrant called me. They wanted to have comments on rumors in the city that the new leader will be Aboutaleb. So, hold on, nothing happened. I'm still enjoying my stay in Marrakesh and not coming back. Then the chairman of the Labour Party called another moment later saying, if you are not coming back, we are coming to Marrakesh. I said, stay in Amsterdam. Don't come. This is really ridiculous. Sometimes things in your life happen that can be of a dramatic impact on the remaining part of your life. That was, for me, a very crucial moment in what happens later. I decided to continue my stay in Marrakesh with my colleagues and then come back a week later. There was a car waiting for me to bring me from the airport to the house of the chairman, and there was on a Sunday and a Monday there will be a voting in the Labour Party fraction in the evening about the question whether I will be a candidate or not. I think there were 2 other candidates, but they didn't play any role of any significance. And I went to my office, civil servant, and have been thinking the whole day what to do. And there is really nobody who you can trust enough to have a chat and to reflect on the major change in your life. So finally, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I decided to write a press release. I have been working many years as a journalist, so I know how to write a press release. With the intention, I'm not being to be a candidate tonight, so there will be no voting about me in the Labour Party fraction. But before sending this press release, someone called me. And he said, where are you? I said, City Hall, civil servant. Can we meet in a cafe? Well, I said, everybody knows if I go with you to any cafe that we meet. Is that suitable? Not an issue. we decided to go to a cafe, and then he said to me, I never forget that, Ahmed, you must accept this invitation. The fraction will vote in favor of you. I know that, he said. Probably he called everyone. And his final words were, the city needs you. He didn't live anymore, so you cannot check this question. But it was Helto Partij, the former mayor of the city of Amsterdam. And when he died, I delivered flowers on his grave, writing, it started with you. A dramatic change in my life, coming back on Sunday, and the same day later, on Monday evening, I became leader of the Labour Party in the city government of Amsterdam. How big can a change be? Someone can come into your life with big arguments. He used the most important and big argument you can imagine to invite someone to be in a powerful position. The city needs you. Did he lie? No. The same year, in November, Van Gogh was assassinated in Amsterdam. This year will be 10 years ago that he was assassinated. And that was a big drama for the Netherlands, and of course for the city of Amsterdam. The news came in about 9:15 in the morning on Tuesday, while we were preparing for the city government meeting under the leadership of Mayor Cohen. And the city started to shake. And it was there that without any big preparation, that the Mayor Cohen was really involved in tackling the whole bilateral things with The Hague. Did we did enough to protect Van Gogh? Was the AIVD well aware of what was happening? Did he deserve protection, and did we give them enough protection? Did he refuse protection? So there was a huge debate about the institution's role in the whole protection role. But who was there to take care of the city, of the streets? And I decided to jump into that space. I never forget that period. It's thanks to the intervention that I did at that time that I deserved to be protected by police in a severe regime for 3.5 years. I was living under the same severe police protection as Mr. Wilders has now. Living surrounded by policemen and 3 cars the entire day. Even when I went home, I had a pied-à-terre in Amsterdam, living in The Hague. And sometimes I discovered that I need milk because I forgot to buy milk. And I was not allowed to leave my house alone. And the gentlemen were gone to The Hague. And so I was forced to call them back, to come back with 3 cars to assist me to go to the shop to buy milk. And at the end, we decided that was not a good thing. So there was a lady working for the Amsterdam police, which I had the telephone of, and I was in the position to call her to come to buy simple things around the corner if necessary. A very, very complicated period, 3.5 years. I think what inspired me finally to say yes and to learn from that period is the notion of leadership. The notion of leadership. To take a firm position the moment people or city or nation needs you. So my talking to you will be about leadership. And what makes that someone becomes a natural leader, which is not the same as an elected leader. What is the difference between Maliki in Iraq elected leader, and Nelson Mandela, primarily a natural leader. What is the difference between them, and what kind of inspiration I personally have in fulfilling my role at that time in Amsterdam, and later on in being a member of the national government. At that time, the movie of Wilders, Fitna, was one of the big issues. And nowadays, in my role as mayor of the city of Rotterdam, in a very turbulent period. And I think the difference, as I see it when it comes to the role of leadership in a variety of levels, on the level of the cities, and nations, and international role, is that the natural leader is the one who is acting independently from his constituency, who is leading a city or a nation or the world, even if his own people that have been voting for him or electing him, are against his decisions. Let me give you one example. One of my big inspirations ever is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, a wonderful movie. If you have time, please watch it, 3.5 hours on a rainy Sunday, a good movie. Was the man who fought against the British occupation with bare hands, no arms. And the moment there were differences between his own people, the Hindu community and the Muslims, the minority, he said, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink until you stop this violence between the Hindu and the Muslim community. Can you imagine that Obama would say, I'm not going to eat and drink until the white and the black community in the US is stopping the violences? He did. Mahatma Gandhi did. And he succeeded in defeating the British with his bare hands, no arms. The British government became desperate of this man, that tiny man. And after the occupation, he was forced to see how his country will be divided between Pakistan and India. And to avoid that, he took a dramatic decision. He said to the Hindu majority, the only way to gain the trust of the Muslim minority is to appoint the first prime minister from the Muslim community. Make them responsible for the whole nation, and they will provide the first prime minister after the liberation. A wise man. Because of that idea, he has been assassinated by a Hindu young man. Unfortunately, his dream was never succeeded. There is a separation between Pakistan and India, and the rest is history. And the other natural leader to me, a big person, is Nelson Mandela. Humiliated by a white minority, sentenced in prison for many years, a shortage of food, a shortage of medical health care and everything. And he survived. I never forget the moment he left the prison. A great moment for the world history. And he had every right to take revenge, to put Mr. Botha in prison, maybe to force the white minority to leave the country. He had every reason, as we may imagine, you and me, very simple people, to take revenge. He did not. He said, well, it's over. I'm not any longer in prison. We can try to make something beautiful out of this country. All of us, black and white. I cannot talk like Mr. Mandela did, but that was the essence of his speech. Reconciliation, binding people. He said to Botha, you was wrong, but I need to bridge our differences. And the most important thing in his speech was that he was the first one to hand over his hand to Botha to say, I want to collaborate with you. He decided to see his personal problems, being humiliated, being in prison for many years, not in the same position as the future of his country. The future of his country was more important than the fact that he has been humiliated for many years. A wise man. And you can see the difference between South Africa and Mozambique, for instance, Zimbabwe. There, they decided to take revenge and see the difference between the both nations. And when he died, he has been considered to be a great leader. I was in February of this year in South Africa, and I heard a joke while I was meeting with the Dutch business community there. Someone said that when Mandela was about to be buried, that someone in heaven went to Jesus Christ and said, Jesus, please move a little bit, make some space. Nelson Mandela is coming. That says something about how the world is perceiving this man. No revenge, but bridging differences. That's leadership. That has nothing to do with being elected and being in a powerful position as a result of voting. The whole drama in Iraq has to do with a lack of leadership. Mr. Maliki was elected by the Shia majority, and he decided to exclude the Sunni minority. Do you have an idea what the differences are between the Shia and the Sunni? Thank you. Hardly no differences. I'm a Sunni Muslim, so I can tell you how it is. Hardly no differences. But his policy was of excluding this group. Why? Because they were in power with the former leader, Saddam Hussein. They humiliated us. They have to pay the price. We exclude them. Neglecting that the first lesson of democracy, Hussein was not elected, but Maliki is elected. But the first lesson of democracy is one man, one vote. The second lesson is the majority governs. And the third lesson is protect minority. The first thing you have to do when you are in power is protecting minorities. And he forgot about this lesson. Well, the Sunni group in the world is very big. About 90% of the Muslims in the world are Sunni. So these people are receiving a lot of support to fight the Shia again. And we have a civil war. That is the bad form of leadership, excluding people. And I was really also surprised that after the elections in Egypt, there was no urgency to make space for the Christian minority in the government, which is a big minority. It's about 10%, maybe 15%. We don't have exact statistics. It should be wonderful for Egypt, within the 30 or 35 ministers they have, to reserve 4 or 5 seats for the Christian minority. That would be leadership, to show that big nation with that big history that we are all Egyptians, whatever our religion is, welcome to work together to make something big of this great nation. They fail in doing that. They are excluding Christians in that part of the world. Leadership is not, that's the way I see it, is not only being elected to be in a powerful position, it's giving content to leadership. It's binding people. That's not the same as trying to be friends with everyone. Leadership is also leading. Let's start with listening. My mother says always, it's not for nothing that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen twice as you speak. So it's really important to listen to what is happening in the cities, in the streets, in communities. But it's also leading, showing the direction, and saying, that's the way. That brings me to why I decided recently to write an article in one of the daily newspapers arguing that it's really important that the Muslim community in the Netherlands says no to what happens in ISIL in Iraq. And all these Muslims who say, Mr. Aboutaleb, you are wrong, because we have nothing to do with what happens over there. We are not responsible, and please don't bring us in the position to be seen as responsible. We are not responsible. I agree with this intellectual approach, but it's not leadership. Leadership is to say to this community, indeed, you are not responsible. You are not involved in what happens over there. You are not involved in killing people and raping women. But I ask you to help us to find a solution for that. I have a request for you. And you are the only one who has a medicine in your hands. And that medicine is very cheap. Join me in saying no to what happens over there. It's like seeing a building burning, and there was a lot of crowds staying around this building, and someone comes and says, stay out of it. You are not responsible for this fire. You are not the one who did it. Stay out of it. Keep out of it. He's right. But the other man comes and says, indeed, you are not responsible for the fire, but please help us to do something to minimize the damage of this fire. That's me, Aboutaleb. That's the difference between them and me. When there is a dilemma, someone who is a philosopher, if there is a dilemma, he will say, this is right and the other thing is also right. That's why philosophers should never be involved in leading nations or cities. They are the wrong people to govern. They never make a choice. One approach is good, the other one is also good. Who is a philosopher among you? Please do everything but being mayor. Don't do that. You have to make choices every day. And the issue of telling people the truth, if you see it as truth, is really important. Otherwise, you are a manager, not a leader. And I think it's really important to distinguish between both. And I hope that I clarified to you what my opinion is about being a natural leader or elected leader. Thank you.